مصاحبه سیمای آزادی با خانم رودیک، نماینده پارلمان و رهبر حزب صدای اوکراین و نایب رئیس اتحاد لیبرال‌ها و دموکرات‌های اروپا. خانم رودیک: مریم رجوی یک رهبر شگفت انگیز و یک الگوی بزرگ است. من انتظاراتی داشتم که در اشرف 3 با چه چیزهایی روبرو خواهم شد. اما می توانم به شما بگویم که آنها از همه این انتظارات بالاتر بودند.
سلام به همه شما هم میهنان عزیز، بینندگان گرامی سیمای آزادی تلویزیون ملی ایران. امروز ما گفتگویی داریم با خانم رودیک، معاون حزب اتحاد لیبرال دموکرات های اروپا، نماینده پارلمان اوکراین و رهبر حزب هولوس این کشور، و از ایشون در رابطه با مقاومت مردم اوکراین و به طور خاص زنان اوکراینی و همچنین آشناییشون با مردم و مقاومت مردم ایران و مبارزه اونها. You decided to resist and all the people of Ukraine also. How do you see this evolution and how do you explain the resistance of the brave people of Ukraine?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. You cannot predict the war and you cannot predict the impact it will have on you or your actions. But when there is an enemy at your door, you have to ask you those complicated questions of what are you going to do? And for me and for many of Ukrainian women, the answer was very simple. We will be fighting for our land. We will be fighting for the freedom of our country. We will be fighting alongside our men for the things that we deem important. And we will win because we are fighting for the right cause. And right now the fights are far away from Kiev, but the resolve and resilience of Ukrainian men and women remains the same. We are ready to fight till the last person standing, same men and women, and we are able to resist because we believe in this fight. So this is what we are going to do. Today in Ashraf 3, alongside all the discussions, we brought up a very important point that at a time like this, you only rely on yourself. You get the help and support from other nations, but you learn that you are the one who makes the decision, who calls the shots, and who is responsible.
I wanted to ask you, how do you see this resistance? And what have you seen in Ashraf 3?
Well, I had expectations about what I would see in Ashraf 3, but I can tell you that they were absolutely topped. So I have visited the museum and I have seen and talked to witnesses of the crimes committed by the regime. I have talked to people who were telling that their loved ones died and were in prison. I have seen how people for a long time are protesting and resisting no matter what. And of course, the highlight of my day was the meeting with Mrs. Rajvi, and I was able to share my impressions with her and get some wisdom from her and share my admiration with her work and her activities. She's an amazing leader and a great example for all of us. I would say that the energy that is coming from her is both wise but also extremely resilient. I think that what we all need to remember right now is that war would not end tomorrow. And this is something that is very new for the Western countries because everybody thought that we would either give up on like day 3 or day 4. But now it's 100 days and I think that the war would continue. And what we need to remember that it would be like a longer story and we will need to be ready to that. And also what I see is that here in Ashraf 3 people have been doing it for 40 years, 35 years, resisting. And my question was like, how are you doing that? And they say, easy, because we are doing it for the right cause. I don't know how to tell my people back in home in Ukraine that it may take 40 years. But I want to tell them that there are people who have been doing it for a while, and this is extremely important.
At the end of this interview, what is your message to the Iranian people who would watch the interview inside?
There is always a question about the values that you stand for and the dignity that you have. Mrs. Rajvi said today a very important thing. She said, when you're fighting for the high values, you are paying the high price. And this is exactly what each and every person need to think, that to get such an important point for your country as freedom, liberty, democratic values, all the things that are so important when you say it, but also they mean that you may have to die for them. This is what people of Ukraine are doing right now, dying for European democratic values. And this is what we will continue to be doing. We can only rely on ourselves. We can ask for help, and we will be always asking for help, but we need to fight ourselves because it is our land. It is said that nobody would be dying for the land that is not their own. So then, as sons, daughters of our land, we will need to be fighting for ours. I want to support each and every person who decides to fight for their freedom. I want to support specifically women who make this choice of bearing arms and joining the resistance and making sure that they will make a difference. This is extremely important. This is the thing that gives us the purpose. And this is the thing that gives us a hope of a bright future. So with that being said, with all my heart that is going to men and women of Iranian resistance who are fighting for their freedom, I will end with the words that I ended it with Mrs. Rajvi. See you next time in free Iran, and see you next time in free Ukraine that will not have war.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ruddy.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.